Hi, everyone. All right, we are going to continue on with lesson 13. What are stories made of? Over the next 2 days, we are going to be reading and taking a closer look at a myth. And you are going to use what you've learned about how the chapters of the story work together and how events build on other events in the story. And so remember that a myth is a folk tale that explains why something is the way that it is. Many myths focus on things like good and evil. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read this myth as you follow along. It is on page 222 and 223 in your Ready Reading materials. This is the myth that you pre-read yesterday during your independent workday. And so the title of this myth is King Midas and the Golden Touch. It is a Greek myth. And here in the top left, you will see a box with words to know. So, again, as we read, please look inside, around, and beyond these words to figure out what they mean. Please use what you know about context clues and unfamiliar words and how to break apart those unfamiliar words to determine their meanings. The words you'll be taking a closer look at are ancient, immediately, doubts, and wondrous. Okay, so again, I am on page 222. The Greek myth is entitled King Midas and the Golden Touch. Chapter 1, The King's Wish. Long ago, there was a king named Midas. You might think that a king would have to be wise and thoughtful, but unfortunately, Midas was a foolish king. Although he was foolish, King Midas was not mean or unkind. He had a daughter whom he loved more than the moon and stars, and Midas himself was much loved by some of the gods who ruled over the ancient world. In fact, one of the gods told Midas that he would grant the king anything he wished for. Midas thought this over. If he had thought a little longer, he might have made a wiser choice. But besides being foolish, Midas was also a bit greedy. Surely it was greed that caused Midas to ask for the power to turn everything he touched to gold. Chapter 2, Midas's Golden Touch. Unfortunately for Midas, the god granted his wish. King Midas was overjoyed. He touched his chair, and it turned to gold. He touched the walls of the room, and they turned to gold. Then Midas went outside. Every plant, flower, and blade of grass he touched immediately became gold. He went to his orchard and pulled an apple from the tree. Midas's golden touch turned the fruit into a glittering ball of gold. Chapter 3, Too Much of a Good Thing. Midas returned to his palace. He called out for food and drink, for all this gold making had made him hungry. His servants brought plates of food to his table, but every bit of food that Midas touched turned to gold before he could taste it. Even the water in his glass turned to a flowing stream of gold as soon as it touched his lips. Midas was beginning to have some doubts about his wondrous new power. Just then, his beloved daughter came running into the room. Chapter 4, Washing the Greed Away. Father, Father, the young girl cried. Something terrible has happened in the garden. The soft green grass has turned hard and sharp, and the flowers, Father, look at the flowers. She held out two blooms. Once living, they were now cold and hard and golden. Midas reached out to comfort his crying child. As soon as his hand touched her, the girl became a statue of gold, a golden tear frozen on her golden cheek. "What have I done?" cried Midas. He begged the god who had given him this gift to take it away. The god took pity on Midas. He told the king to go to the nearby river to have his greed washed away. Once he did so, all that the foolish king had once made gold returned to what it had been, and his daughter came running to his arms. Okay, friends, we are going to come back together for a brief discussion, and then we are going to get to work on some questions about this myth.